In this video, you'll get an introduction to the field of learning. Typically, when people think about learning, they think about acquiring knowledge or acquiring a particular skill. So they think in terms of learning to ride a bike or learning to speak Spanish. But in the field of psychology, the term learning is much more broad than that. Learning refers to a relatively permanent change in behavior as a result of experience. So you have some experience, and as a result, you change your behavior. Let's say you're going home, you turn down a particular street, and there are lots of potholes, and you get a flat tire. What do you do next time you're heading home? You avoid that street. So because you had the experience of going down that street and getting a flat, in the future, you change your behavior to avoid getting a flat tire again. Or what if you go to the dentist and you have a very painful procedure done? How do you feel the next time you go to the dentist? You're likely to feel nervous. Your heart may pound. Your hands may shake. You may sweat. So again, you change your behavior as a result of the experience of having that painful procedure done at the dentist. So in the first example, choosing not to take the street with the potholes, you're changing your voluntary behavior. So you have control over the behavior of going down that street, and you change that behavior. In the second example, your heart pounding, your hand shaking when you go to the dentist, those are involuntary behaviors. You don't have conscious control over your heart rate or feeling fear or having your hand shake. So both your voluntary and your involuntary behaviors can change as a result of your experience. So why is it important that we learn? Why is it important that we change our behavior when we have certain experiences? Learning helps us adapt to our environment, and ultimately it helps us survive. So think about when man was a hunter and a gatherer. What if he was out foraging for food, ate a particular berry, and got very sick? Now, if that man did not learn and did not change his behavior, he would eat those same berries over and over and over and continue to get sick each time. And eventually, he may die. So it's important that you change your behavior to adapt to your environment to increase your chances of survival. And I know that we all know somebody who just does not seem to learn. They have the same experience over and over and over, and they don't change their behavior based on those learning experiences. So why do we as psychologists study learning? First of all, it helps us understand why people behave the way they do. If we know that our behavior changes as a result of our experiences and we want to understand somebody's behavior, we look at the experience the person has had or is having and look to that to explain their behavior. The ultimate goal of psychology is to change behavior for the better, and learning allows us to do this. If we know that your experiences shape your behavior, we then can give you particular experiences in order to change your behavior in the direction that we want that behavior to change. So studying learning allows us to develop better study habits, be better parents, and change our own bad behaviors. In this course, we'll talk about 3 types of learning: classical conditioning, operant conditioning, and observational learning. Classical conditioning is heavily influenced by Pavlov's work with dogs. So to remind you of this experiment, Pavlov was studying dogs' digestion. He would present the dog with meat or meat powder, and he would collect the dog's saliva. So as expected, when the dog was given meat, the dog started to salivate. So this is an unconditioned response, an unlearned response. The dog did not have to learn to salivate when it saw meat. It's just a natural inborn reflex to seeing the meat presented. So again, that was what Pavlov expected to happen. What he did not expect to happen and what did happen is that the dog would start to salivate even before the meat was presented. So the dog could see its empty bowl and began to salivate. The dog could hear the footsteps of the researcher coming toward him to give him the food, and the dog would start to salivate just at hearing the researcher's footsteps. So Pavlov began to realize that the dog was making an association between the meat that made him salivate and the bowl. He was making associations between the meat that made him salivate and the researcher's footsteps. So Pavlov wanted to investigate this further. So he began ringing a bell right before he gave the dog the meat. Now, before this investigation started, Pavlov could ring the bell. The dog showed no reaction. But after pairing the bell with the meat that made the dog salivate, over time, Pavlov can then just ring the bell without presenting the meat, and the dog would salivate. So the dog had a conditioned or a learned response to salivate at the sound of the bell.